2, 3, 4. Hello, welcome to another Whiskey review with me, the Whiskey Novice. Great to have you back as usual. Thank you for joining me. It is review number 88 and part 4 of my series. Maybe I got the blends, looking at some accessible blends, approachable blends. And this time it is the turn of Woah Black Bottle Bam-A-Lam. There you go, a little 70s musical nod there for you, for anybody old enough to remember it. Black Bottle, yes. An accessible blend. I think you can sort of see this most places. Gordon Graham's Black Bottle, to give it its full title. Gordon Graham, I think dipping into my memory, was a tea blender. 1800s, mid 1800s, I think. Around the Aberdeen area. Yet again, from memory, could be wrong. If I'm wrong, please let me know. And probably the first one to start, and started blending and dabbling in whiskies, etc. back in the day, whenever you would just rock up to your local shop with a bottle and get some whiskey. Oh, for the days, eh? So yes, Black Bottle, this has been through a few iterations. I believe back in the early 20th century, well, certainly during the war then, and when glass production became a bit funky. This wasn't a black bottle, it was a green bottle for a long time. This was this iteration now that we know, late 20th century, probably early into this century, you were looking at a different version of this, a more Islay heavy version of this. When I say that, obviously I mean smokier, peatier version of Black Bottle. And then master blender Ian McMillan. This is owned by Distell. It was around Burn Stewart, then of course picked up by Distell. And it was master blender Ian McMillan who thought that Black Bottle had lost its way a bit. It got a little lost in Islay and wanted to return it to, because as I said earlier, you were looking at Aberdeen, I think, where this would have been from originally. And wanted to return it to its sort of a little bit more of its Highland heritage. So a lot of the Islay, I think, was blended back out of it again, because this is a Scotch blend. So you're looking at a blend of malts and grains. And as I've explained before, if you need a little help with that there, if it's new to you, I've left a little bit of a guide down in the description below. So yeah, the Islay has they've tried to blend it out a little. Now, it's a sort of hard one to find out what's going into this, really. What we do know is that there's a certain percentage of Bunnahabhain in it, so there's still an Islay influence there. And this is it. This is what you get. 40%. Usual story. Everything, you know, it'll be chill filtered. It'll have colour added, although probably not an awful lot. The nose ain't at all bad. Getting into it, this is recharred and virgin oak maturation. You can tell almost straight away that Bunnahabhain influence is in there. There's a thick syrupy nose on it, and one that I'm going to use here is like a, it's linked, it's the right word, it's almost like a cough mixture feel to it slightly. I would suggest it's more mineral forward rather than smoky. The char, I suppose that char, maybe the recharred barrels are maybe doing that. There's something there. It's not overly smoky. Just as I said there, I find it more mineral forward. It is slightly medicinal, but yet again, I think that's more of a cough syrupy thing. It's not iodine. It's not really. It's more like a hospital smell rather than iodine that you would expect of a heavily peated whiskey. Clove Rock, very definitely Clove Rock. Bitter orange. It's a strange nose. I find it a little confused, the nose on this whiskey, because you can actually feel a Highland thing going on, a thick, syrupy, honeyed Highland thing going on, but that Bunnahabhain influence is definitely there. Here's one. New asphalt. I work an awful lot with tar and new asphalt, and there's a very distinct fresh tar new asphalt smell here. There's a slight saltiness, but it's a weird saltiness, like tonic water. Do you know if you pour tonic water, there's a slight saltiness off it. To me, anyway, I get it here. You know, let this sit a while in your glass. Let a bit of air at it. Let it thicken. Let it settle itself to room temperature, and it's not bad. You start to get dark chocolate, coffee grounds, molasses. There's a thickness to this. There definitely is a thickness to it. So let's see what the palate brings in. For a cheap blend, there's a hint of that thickness in the palate as well. It's dark, it's sour, it's meaty, but it's also thin and light. You sort of expect thick and oily from that nose, that syrupy cough mixture that I was talking about. The nose would suggest you're going to get something thick and oily, but for me, you don't really. It's like more of that coffee on the palate. It's quite bright, actually, strangely, because it said darkness originally, but then there is that saltiness that I mentioned about the tonic water. There's a sparkly thing about it. Your senses, every time you go back into the nose, for me, every time I take a sip, I'm expecting thick molasses, dark, meaty. But because it's already been across my palate's then going, nope, it's thin, it's light, it's sparkly. The darker notes are there, but they wash away so quickly. Barley sugar, yeah. There's a slight hoppy eel thing on the palate. There is a light smokiness on the palate, but it's strange. It feels almost synthetic. It's weird. It's weird. The finish, it's thin. It's short. It's dry. It's actually slightly oaky. That's probably that new oak playing in. As someone who isn't a fan of new oak, as I mentioned before, okay, but they've balanced it well enough in this. Somebody's done a good job of balancing that new oak with the recharred, so there isn't a sappiness. There isn't that real new oak feel about it. So I'll give them that. Yeah, it's just thin on the palate. Nose ain't bad. It gives a sense of a decent whiskey, coming in at sort of 15 to probably about 15 to 25 pounds. This for a bottle. So it's not expensive. If you've seen this at £15, it's not bad. I like the bottle, I have to say. I do like that starkness of the black bottle. It's just a bit, it doesn't matter, does it? It's just a bottle. I've said it before, it's just a vessel. All it's doing is carrying what's in there to bring it to me, but at the same time, if you can give it something with appeal, which they've done here, fair enough, because this bottle, as I mentioned earlier on, it was a green bottle for a long time, and then they've got back to the black glass again, and it stands out. What's in it? It's a cheap blend, you know. Yeah, mineral, definitely. Yeah. So yeah, let's just do this instead. Yes, you've bought a bottle of black bottle, you've seen it, it's cheap, so you've picked the bottle up, you've tried it. It's the first bottle of whiskey you bought. Where do you go next? You want to go into single malt, don't you? So what would I suggest? Well, I mentioned it earlier, and this one, in the scheme of things, if you get it at the right time, ain't that expensive. And it's another one that I feel is a little confused, and it's this Bam-A-Lam Moin. This is the Bam-A-Lam peated whiskey. Now, Moin is Gaelic for peat, just for anybody out there who didn't know that. The idea is that there's definitely Bam-A-Lam in here. Definitely. So, I've said it before in reviews, pull out something that you like. This will definitely be peatier than this. This has got a smokiness about it, but it's a bit confused in my opinion. I'm not doing a review of it here. I'm just giving you something that I would suggest. Take some of the bits of this that you would like improved, something with body. What would you like to, where would you like to progress to this? This, I suppose, would be, this black bottle would be a bit of a pointer in the direction of peat if you were trying to get yourself into the peatier whiskies, but it would be a very slow progression. You would need to be moving on somewhere from there. This would be quite a step up, this Bam-A-Lam, but a bit confused, but not bad. You'll get that thickness again, very much so. Bam-A-Lam just tends to come with a thickness, in my opinion. And for me, a good step up, a good place to move forward if you wish to get into the world of single malts, coming from cheaper blends, accessible blends. You're moving on from black bottle, I would recommend try Bam-A-Lam Moin. There you go. Can't say much more than that, can I? Black bottle, well, I could probably say an awful lot more than that, but I would be wasting my time, I suppose, and yours. It's just simple stuff. Black bottle. That's really all one can say about it. Now, to say it's simple stuff, somebody has spent an awful lot of time making this. Somebody's proud of this. It's still has to be produced. It still has to come from aged whiskey. Remember, everything that's in here has to be at least 3 years old. So it's a lot of work to somebody. Sulfur. I said about mineral earlier on. There's also a little hint of sulfur. Yeah. So there you have it. That is it. That's me done. Review number 88. Black bottle. Meh. There you are. That's the word for this week is meh. I'll be back next time. Until then, thank you very much for joining me. Thank you very much to my patrons. If anyone would like to join that group and wishes to join that group, the details are below. Until next time, and I'll be back with another blend. Here's to your good health. Cheers. Hey, thanks for watching my video. Please click and subscribe to be notified of further content.